wet sissy day. The stairs let out moans as Sam crept down them, his pajama bottom visible even in the black night of the house. He didn't sleep with his top. The banister felt strangely loose under his arm, and slippery to the touch. He could feel his sopping underwear clinging to his skin. If Mommy saw him out of bed, he wouldn't be able to sit for the next 3 days. He winced slightly at the very thought but continued his stroll downstairs. He reached the end of the steps and shuffled quietly as he could toward to the laundry room. He'd have to pass the kitchen and Mommy's room. But his brow was covered in perspiration as he passed the kitchen opening. He glanced into its seemingly endless darkness, but not there, he sensed. Then the light flipped on, his mother leaning by the switch, her auburn hair showing rather a bivous bedhead. Her face was what scared him. She was angry. Wet again. Her tone was more frightening than her face. Her angry face was nothing compared to it. Only babies wet their pants. Your sister doesn't wet herself, and she's half your age. Her comment hurt badly. His sister, Sarah, was younger. Mommy spoiled her and gave her everything. Sam, however, was looked on as a failure to his mommy. She tried to control everything he did. I've had enough of your wetting. Mommy was inches from his face, practically screaming at him. If you want to pee on yourself, then you're a baby. She shoved him to the ground, evoking from him a slight whimper. Then he saw something he hadn't before. From her back pocket, she removed a disposable diaper. She tore away his pants and underwear, leaving him to shiver against the freezing tile floor. She slid the diaper under him and fastened the tabs to the front. You'll have to wear that to bed. She scooped up his wet clothes and sent him to bed. As he reached the stairs, his mommy called out, "Tomorrow we'll talk about your punishment." Sam gulped loudly and silently returned to his bed. Sam couldn't go back to sleep that night. He was struck with terror, fantasizing about the morning and partially dreading it. The diaper was so soft and warm against his skin. The darkroom felt so scary around him. He wasn't afraid of the dark, but the thought of what could be there frightened him. The same was true for his mother. He wasn't terrified of her, but of what she could do to him. So many thoughts ran through his head as he stared at the ceiling. Finally, the dawn broke. He heard footsteps and hid under his covers. The door creaked open and in stepped his sister. "What are you doing in here, Sarah?" he demanded as she approached his bed. She leaned over his bed and grasped the covers. She tugged hard on the covers, revealing his diaper. "Aha!" her smug voice shouted, causing him to cringe and hide his diapered shame. "I knew it. Mommy said you were being a baby, and she's didn't lie." She's pointed to his wet diaper. "You even peed like a baby." She laughed at his state. Great, he thought, can this get any worse? Mommy wants to see you downstairs. She got a big surprise for you, baby brother. He was tugged on by his sister and led downstairs. He thought sadly. His punishment was only beginning. Sam took the trip slowly down the stairs. His sister chiding him with a push from her foot every couple of feet. His heart was racing. He didn't know what to do. Nervously, he made his way into the kitchen, where his mother sat with a scowl. In front of her sat a large mug of Irish coffee, pitch black and to her liking. She spotted him as he approached, his pale body shivering against the cool dawn. She motioned for him to sit the chair adjacent to her, as his sister grinned widely from the doorway. "Sam, she started, then paused, unsure of what to say. Staring thoughtfully into her black drink. "I'm sorry for last night, but it has to end." Her hands went to her mug and she sighed a bit as she drank. "Your sister came up with a solution, and I think it'll help." He looked dumbfounded until his sister dashed out of the doorway. He was still in shock when she returned. She held a girl's pink satin dress in her hand, with lace running horizontally across the hem of its smooth shape. The bows attached to it made the Femi dress even fam. Complete with ribbons his sister held in her opposite hand. The dress and bows could have been hers, were they not twice her size. He couldn't believe his eyes, even when his ears heard it. You're going to be Mommy's little girl for the day. Sam was still in shock as his mother tugged his hands and led him into the bathroom, the lacy dress in tow. She locked the door and produced a large pair of sweet Femi panties. These were complete with a pair of teddy bears on the seat. She opened the panties and slipped his feet into the silky material. This followed swiftly with the soft dress around his thin waist. Next was the ribbons in his short hair. His mother separating his hair and tying them off into two cute and sweet pigtails. In the mirror reflected a beautiful young girl complete with a darling hairstyle. His shock was still on his face. Now that's a very pretty girl, Mommy, Sarah commented, as their mother pulled Sam out and stood him before her. Yes, she is, and she is going to go shopping with us today. She paused and checked his noticeably wet diaper. But first, we'll change your little sister's diaper and get her ready. She tugged him toward the living room, where a towel laid flat on the floor, gently laying him and his soaking diaper onto it. Sam laid defenseless as she lifted up his dress and ripped the tabs on the diaper away, pulling it from under him swiftly. Mother grabbed a baby wipe from the tub next to the towel where he lay and cleaned him thoroughly. This all happened while Sarah looked on, giggling. His mommy powdered him and slid a new diaper underneath him and pulled the front cover. Fastening it securely in place, she pulled the undergarments back over it. She lifted him up and examined him, or should we say her. She then stood her in front of her as she helped his sister into her jacket. When we go out, you'll behave and not talk back to me, understood? Mommy was dead serious. He could tell by the way her face tensed up and her eyes became like stone. He knew better than to say anything otherwise than what was told to him. Yes, Mommy, he nodded slightly, all the time keeping his head low and toward his feet, which his mommy was squeezing into black leather Mary Janes, complete with a darling pink ribbon on each. Noticing the bag his mother grabbed and slung over her shoulder, he looked down meekly. Mommy grabbed his hand and led him and his sister out the door and toward their mother's light blue car. Sam had a sinking feeling that this day was about to get a lot worse for him. Even worse than a simple diaper change. After she was buckled into a baby's car seat, his mother started the car and put it into gear. She handed his sister the bag she had brought with her. Sarah sat in the front seat where he usually sat, and smiled a sly grin at him. Wait, Mommy. Sarah leaned over and tapped her on the shoulder, whispering something to her that Sam couldn't hear. Oh, excellent. Thank you, sweetie, for reminding me. She reached into her purse and drew out something small and pink, turning toward him. Mommy. Just as he said it, she popped a pink butterfly pacifier into his open mouth. There. Now our little tea girl has her parkie and we're ready to go. She pulled out of their driveway and headed out of their neighborhood. Sam looked disgustedly at Sarah with his eyes, but she feigned ignorance and just stared out the window. As their destination loomed in the distance, Sam's heart was struck with fear. The mall. The one place he didn't want ever to go dressed this way. He fervently struggled to get out of the car seat, but a glance from his mother stopped him cold. She parked the car in the parking lot and turned off the engine. She turned to Sam. Now, baby girl. She unbuckled the car seat and lifted him out of it. We're going to have a fun time at the mall today. Mommy has all sorts of things planned for you. She stood him in the parking lot and fixed his dress, lifting him up into her arms. He wasn't so glad now that his mother was able to lift him, carrying him in one arm like a real little girl. His sister handed their mother back the bag and they stepped through the glass door leading into the mall. Sam prayed he wouldn't see anyone here that could recognize him. His friends often came to this mall and hung out on days they didn't have school, like today. He just hoped that they wouldn't be here today. Though today wasn't his day to be lucky, it was his day to be a baby.